Shalom. Here we are once again with a new lesson in the series of the people of Israel coming home. We're studying the book of Joshua. Today we will study the chapter 8, Perek Chet, the book of Yehoshua. We are studying this week after the major flop of last week in chapter 7, when the people of Israel did not succeed in overcoming the city of the Ai. Here we are with the second chance. The people of Israel this time, I'll tell you the secret of the end. Yes, they managed to capture the Ai. They managed to overcome the Ai. This time they did it, but after the lesson they had learned from our last lesson. And the lesson that we spoke about in last chapter 7, was that in chapter 7, the people of Israel felt that it was in their hands, that it's a piece of cake to capture the Ai. If they did Jericho just by blowing trumpets, what's the Ai, a small little city? And God taught them a lesson. Through the punishing of Achan, through standing up all the tribes together, God taught the people the lesson. And now, they are ready to go with their initiative. Though even in this chapter, the strategic plan was given to Joshua by God. The actual turning the plan into a practical practice, this was in the hands of the people. And that's why, by the way, the booty in the Ai was permitted. But the story we have here is how they did it. The Lord said to Joshua, Hashem told us to Yehoshua, do not fear. Do not lose resolve. Of course, after what happened in the lesson in chapter 7, the people of Israel and Joshua himself were beginning to fear. And God said, don't worry. Take with you all the war troops and go up to the Ai. And don't worry, I will give it to you in your hand. Re'eh, you will see. Natati bi'atcha et melech ha'ai, ve'et amo, ve'et iro, ve'et arzo. You will capture his people, his city, and his land. His land refers to the outskirts of the city. And you will do to the Ai and to its king, and just as you did to Jericho. Don't worry. But this time, this time, its goods, the animals, the booty is yours. The plan is to set up an ambush from the city from its rear. And what's going to happen? And they will arise, Joshua and all the troops. Joshua chooses 30,000 not plain soldiers. Giborei HaChayil. Giborei HaChayil are strong fighters. 30,000. This time they're not playing games. This time they understand that a war is a war. It's not blowing trumpets. It's not sitting down and having on your feet and waiting for things to happen, miracles to happen. No. This time it's a war. It's a battle. The people are going to have to go ahead. So God said, don't fear, but go ahead. And there, Ru'atem Orvim La'ir, in verse 4, Ru'atem Orvim La'ir me'acharei ha'ir, al tarchiku min ha'ir me'od. Place yourselves not too far from the city. Stand and watch the city, the people coming out of the city. Vani v'chol ha'am asher iti nikra v'la'ir. Me, Joshua says, I and all the people will approach the city. V'yatzu achareinu. And all the people of the Ai will come out afterwards. They will try to chase us. We will run away as if we were repeating what happened the first time. And they will chase us. Verse 7. V'atem takumu me'arev. You will raise, you will get up, you will come out into ambush and drive out the people remaining in the city. And then, v'haya ketofsechem et ha'ir, when you seize the city, tatzitu et ha'ir ba'esh. You shall set the city on fire. You shall act. Ru'u tziviti etchem. You are doing what I've commanded. And they do the exact same thing. V'yishlachem Yehoshua, and they sit and they wait for the ambush. And the entire war troops go up. And the story is that this time, the people of the Ai chased Joshua and his people. And then the people from the ambush chased back and burned the city. And then the people who are from the Ai who left the city look back and they see their city going on fire. And Joshua and all the people of Israel. Verse 21. They see the smoke coming out of the city. And the people of the Ai are in between. They're in between Joshua and his people, and they're in between the ambush people. Joshua, in this story, has a few interesting points. The story here has strong, I would say, very quite obvious hints to a story that we already have seen in the past. The battle against Amalek. What was Amalek? Amalek was the people that symbolized taking advantage of the weaknesses of the people of Israel. And there we saw that Joshua raises his hands and he overcomes the people of Amalek. I'm talking about the book of Exodus. I'm referring to chapter 17. Amalek v'yilachem and there we say the same thing, that Joshua raises his hand, or Moses raises his hand, but Joshua leads the battle. And the same thing we have over here. Joshua in the footsteps of Moses. Is raising his hand. He's raising his hand and he's telling the people to go ahead. But don't forget that Moses had a stick in his hand, and Joshua has what's called in Hebrew a kidon. Joshua is holding a spear, meaning that this time it's not a miracle. It's the people of taking the initiative in their own hand, and they're fighting the battle as soldiers should fight. But we want to understand, what is the importance of this story? Why do we have to have a story that the people leave their city and the ambush behind them? Why don't we just have a regular battle against the people? Why do we have to have the people leaving the city? It's interesting to point out that God wanted the people of Israel to be able to capture the land of Israel in a short time. But the people of the Canaanites were quite frightened, as we saw in the words of Rachav in chapter 2, as we saw in the beginning of chapter 3, where the kings of Canaanites were all frightened. So what did they do? They hid in their cities. If we recall in the book of Numbers, when we have the first spies were sent by Moses, and I'm referring to the book of Numbers, we're talking about chapter 13, what the people were to check, I'm talking about chapter 13, verse 19, that the spies were to check where the cities they live in, are they open cities or are they fortified? And the spies come back and saw that all the people sitting in behind walls. Now, even if you have a very strong army, to manage to overcome a city that's behind walls is something that's not very simple. And if the people of Israel would have to fight against tens of cities in Israel, tens of cities in the land, and all of them would be behind walls, this would take several years. This would take a long time. So what God does in this second story of capturing a city in Israel, after in the first story, the walls came tumbling down. But God doesn't want this to happen miraculously every single time. He wants it to be something natural. And what is this thing that's happening natural? The people leave the city. And once again, the kings of the Canaanites understand that they cannot hide behind walls. If they want to fight against the people of Israel, they have to leave their cities. Once they leave their cities, that we will read it further on in chapter 10, in chapter 9, we will see that the people leave their cities, and the war in an open space is different than the war inside the city. So what we're seeing here, that though the initiative was of the people, though the battle was a natural battle, which means they used a spear, which means they remembered this time that's God who led them, and the strategy was by God. They did the whole thing in their own hands. But the message to the kings of Canaan, the message to the kings of the Amorites, the message was that the people of Israel are here, and no walls are going to protect you. No walls are going to protect you. And the message is also to the people of Israel. Don't fear. And this is why the beginning of this story begins with God telling Joshua, don't fear. Don't worry. Because, yes, the people are worried. They see these big walls around the cities. The cities are fortified. How can you manage to do anything? Here we can see, with the right strategy, the people of Israel who are protected by God, God can overcome all of walls. Not only you don't need the miracles for that. You don't need the walls to crumble down. You need strategy. That though it may look like something which is simple, but it's not. And it's in the hands of God. So the soldiers, the very, very strong soldiers, are going ahead, and they're going to use a strategy of the ambush. And the people of Ai are going to leave their cities, and then all the kings are going to hear and understand that hiding behind walls is not enough. What they're going to do, and we're going to see that in the future, they're going to try to attack the Israelites. And there, we will overcome them in other ways. But here we are once again with a lesson that the book of Joshua is trying to teach us step by step from the very beginning. The initiative is in your hands. You go ahead, but don't forget, God is leading. He has his plan. And part of his plan is to teach the nations that are here to fear Israel. To fear Israel means to fear the God of Israel. To fear the God of Israel means the one and only God of the world.